Hey everyone, Julian here, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to make computer. Hey everyone, Julian here, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to give your pianos that sort of like Nils Frahm, Ólafur Arnalds type of vibe, something like this. So you can grab the project file and MIDI from this video in the description for free, so make sure to check that out. You know, if you want to just play around with these chords or play around with this piano preset or even this little drone thing, go for it. It's all in the description for free. And yeah, let's dive in. So the main thing I want to focus on with this video is this piano and sort of like I said, just sort of how to give your pianos, especially like digital pianos, that kind of like nice, like delicate, deep, warm kind of piano sound. So the first thing I want to talk about for this, and I'm gonna turn these effects off, is actually chord voicing. And so if you look here, you'll see these chords are somewhat complex. Obviously, their voices are all spanning across, a few different octaves. Sounds like there's kind of a lot going on, but actually, these are all pretty simple chords. So if you look at this first one, for example, it's just an F major chord. And then all I did was I took the third, which is A, and doubled it up over the next two octaves, basically. So if I put this down, and then we'll put that down, you can see it's just an F major triad. We have F, A, and C, the first, the third, and the fifth. And then, like I said, I just put the third up an octave, and then doubled that up an octave. And now we have this much bigger, like, sort of, just wider spanning chord. It takes up more of the keyboard, and it gives us a bigger sound because we just have more space between the notes. And on top of that, there's more clarity between the notes. Like, obviously these two are A and A. They're just octaves, so it's going to sound kind of the same. But you can really hear the space between those notes more. And same thing with all these other chords. So that's the first thing I can recommend, is take basic chords and sort of span them out over the keyboard. Now, another thing I would like to talk about is sort of your MIDI velocities. Excuse me. So what I mean by this is if you look at all of these, you can see none of the velocities are very high. Like, I have them all pretty low. And what this does is it gives the piano this more sort of like delicate, just sort of more simple sound almost. Like, they're not hitting as hard. When they hit harder, like if we turn the velocity up on this one, you can hear it's not really quite that same piano sound. Like I said, it doesn't have that sort of like delicate softness to it. So I definitely recommend just turning all your velocities down, and even like while you're just playing the piano, like if you're playing it in with your computer keyboard or something like that, you can just turn your velocities down, and then when you play the notes, they'll already kind of have that vibe, and it'll be a little bit easier to get into the swing of things. So the next thing I'll talk about here is processing to get this kind of sound. So the first thing I put on here was this auto filter. So you can see it's just a low pass filter, and what this is doing is it's cutting off the very, very high highs, mostly on the actually high notes in the chords. So what I mean by this is if you look at the keyboard here, we have like these sort of low notes, and then obviously some higher notes, and then like these kind of notes. So if I play those without the low pass filter, you'll hear the high notes, especially those really high ones, tend to have like this very strong brightness to them that sort of tells the listener like this piano isn't really like delicate and soft like I was saying. What it kind of tells you is like when those high notes hit, it gives it like this sort of impact. Like it makes the piano hit very hard, and it makes it good for some things, but not really good for these softer kind of sounds. So by cutting off the high end, what we're doing is we're just on those high notes, sort of rounding it off a little bit, just giving the sound a little bit more of a gentle feel. So that's pretty important. Honestly, I would recommend trying that on like all your pianos. If you just want them to be more, like I said, like chill. It just takes away some of that high end that sort of gets further away from that kind of sound. So then the other effect that I put on here was this reverb, and as you can see, the reverb I actually went pretty hard with. We have a lot of decay time, and the dry wet is up pretty high for how high the decay time is. Excuse me, I cannot talk today. But yeah, so what this is doing is it's really just, really, to put it simply, it's just adding some reverb. but it's more like about the type of reverb. So like I said, we have a really high decay time here. And you can see I turned off all these different like things like the input processing, the early reflections, the diffusion network, and the chorus. And by doing that, we just have a very simple, clean reverb sound that is just very like, I don't know how to describe it in any term other than like it's just very sort of angelic. Like it just, you play the chord and it just rings out and keeps going and going, and it really gives the chords this nice sense of depth. So I recommend, like when you're trying to put the reverb on your piano for these kinds of sounds, just try to go for like this kind of thing, like something big and long that just really accentuates the notes and almost makes this like a pad. Like it almost gives like another layer in the background with all that reverb. But that's really cool. When you have these big open chords like this, it totally works to do that. And yeah, so then I will also talk a little bit about this little sound, because I think this little drone sound, can actually be kind of important for these sounds as well. Basically, all this is doing is it's just playing an A, which, if you remember our F major chord, that this is basically an F major. If you remember the F major chord, A is the major third. So we have, oh, whoops, I had the wrong note there. But yeah, so we just have that playing throughout, and it just kind of gives this nice, like, hanging note over top of everything. And the thing is, this note is going to work with everything. Sometimes, if you just do the root, it can sound a little weird with some of the chords. You see what I mean? Like, it doesn't feel like the right note there. But if we put it to A, it just hangs over the whole thing really nicely. And this is something that Nils Frahm and Ólafur Arnalds do in their tracks a lot. They're very well known for using a lot of synthesizers to sort of like accentuate the more live instruments. So it's a cool way to do that. So as far as the synth sound goes, pretty straightforward. I just made it an analog. We have a square wave, and that's going into this low pass filter with no envelope. And then I have a little bit of LFO1 modulating the frequency there. So you can kind of hear that if I turn it off. So that's just giving it some motion. Since this is just one note holding out over the whole time, you have to kind of find some ways to give it motion and, you know, just to keep things going and not have it just be like one long note with nothing moving. So the LFO1 with the really slow rate on the frequency is a really good way to do that. You know, you don't need a whole lot, but it just sort of brings it to life. So then for the amplitude envelope, I have it set like this, so it has a bit of a tack, so you can see it kind of fades into the note. It just felt more like natural and kind of organic than just having it start like that. And then I added a little bit of vibrato. So if you don't know what vibrato is, it's just a little bit of a pitch modulation. And I have that on not really too high, 21%. And then I have a very slow rate, so that just kind of makes it move slowly, similar to like what I was doing with the filter and the LFO. It just helps make the sound kind of like, you know, move around and bring it to life. So then I have this Redux here, which is actually kind of optional. I wanted to leave it on here for the sound. It's definitely something you could do with this. But yeah, so this sounds like this. So you can hear that just gives this really subtle bit crushing. I have it on the soft setting, and it's on like probably the lowest setting you could get it to. But yeah, it's just doing like a little bit. What's happening basically is when the filter opens, it's coming into this, and it's sort of like activating the bit crushing. And then when the filter's a little bit more closed, it doesn't quite hit that threshold where it starts doing the bit crushing. So it kind of, again, just adds some cool fluctuation to the sound. And I'll leave it on for now. So then after that, I just have a bit of reverb. Again, similar to the piano, I just have a pretty long decay time, and then the dry wet is not the highest, but you can hear the reverb. So that's what matters. And yeah, so like really everything with this synth sound is just sort of about trying to bring it to life and, you know, make it sound more organic and kind of fit the world with the piano. So that's going to be it for this tutorial. Like I said, the main things to think about are spreading out your chords and the velocities, and then just doing stuff to make your piano sound more delicate. And then with the synth, like, just trying to sort of bring it to life and make it feel organic like the piano. So that's going to be it for today, guys. Like I said, you can get the project file and MIDI and presets and all that kind of stuff in the description for free. So make sure to go pick that up. Thank you again, everybody, for watching. Check out my social media. It's on the screen right now. Make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. Can't remember if I already said that. And yeah, thank you again, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow with another tutorial.